Chosen one. You are not here by accident. Heaven has drawn you into this moment by divine appointment. Something has shifted in the unseen, and your spirit can feel it. You are standing at the edge of a supernatural elevation, a divine wealth transfer that has already begun in the realm of the spirit. Anointed One, God has whispered your name, and the timing is perfect. Just as Isaiah said, when the time is right, the Lord will make it happen. Today, that time is now. Open your heart, steady your spirit, because what God is releasing over you will change everything. Chosen one. As you approach the final stretch of this divine revelation, heaven is drawing you into the most important dimension of all realization. Not the kind of realization that lives in the mind, but the kind that awakens in the spirit and changes the entire trajectory of a life. Realization is when what God has spoken stops feeling like a prophecy and starts feeling like your identity. It is when you no longer hear the word from the outside, but recognize it as truth that has always lived within you. This is the moment you step from expectation into embodiment. For so long you carried promises that felt distant. You held on to glimpses, dreams, and confirmations that seemed scattered across time. Some days you believed boldly, and other days you questioned quietly. You wondered when, how, and why certain things had not yet unfolded. But now, in this sacred moment, realization is settling into your soul. You are starting to understand that nothing was late, nothing was wasted, and nothing was random. You were being shaped into someone who could not only receive elevation, but sustain it. Anointed One. This realization is more than awareness, it is activation. It is the moment where everything heaven has been speaking comes into alignment with everything you were created to become. Realization is the spiritual bridge between promise and manifestation, between prophecy and reality, between calling and action. And heaven is inviting you to walk across that bridge now, fully awake and fully aligned. You may notice that something inside you feels different. A sense of inner strength you didn't have years ago. A sharper intuition, a quieter mind, a more confident spirit. These are signs that your internal world has shifted into the frequency of your divine calling. You are no longer waiting for elevation, you are embodying it. You are no longer hoping for breakthrough, you are walking in it. You are no longer wondering if God will move, you are recognizing that He already has. I remember going through a similar transition, one that wasn't marked by fireworks or dramatic moments, but by a quiet, steady inner knowing. I realized one morning that I no longer operated from fear, but from clarity. I no longer prayed from desperation, but from alignment. I no longer questioned my worthiness because I finally understood that I was chosen long before I ever chose Him. That realization changed everything, not because my circumstances shifted instantly, but because my perception did. And once perception shifts, the world around you can't help but follow. Chosen one. This is the point where heaven and earth meet inside of you. Realization creates a spiritual gravity that begins pulling manifestation toward you. Suddenly, opportunities you once chased begin to find you. People who are aligned with your destiny begin to appear. Resources begin to flow. Ideas become clearer. Strategies become sharper. The fog lifts. The path brightens. And life begins to respond to the authority you now walk in. This is the power of realization. It anchors your spirit so deeply in truth that external conditions can no longer shake what God has established inside you. It steadies your emotions, strengthens your decisions, and sharpens your discernment. You start moving differently, you start speaking differently, you start expecting differently, and heaven responds to that shift with acceleration. But realization also brings responsibility. When you understand who you truly are, you can no longer shrink to fit old spaces. You can no longer entertain relationships that weaken your spirit. You can no longer walk back into environments that contradict your calling. Elevation demands maturity. It requires you to guard what God has placed in you, even when it feels uncomfortable. Realization is the moment where excuses fall away and purpose takes the lead. Chosen one. The more you realize your identity, the more irrelevant fear becomes. The more you realize your assignment, the quieter doubt becomes. The more you realize your authority, the weaker every spiritual attack becomes. And the more you realize your elevation, the more unstoppable your momentum becomes. You cannot fight someone who knows who they are. You cannot intimidate someone who walks in divine timing. You cannot derail someone who is anchored in destiny. This is why heaven has brought you through identity, authority, assignment, preparation, acceleration, alignment, and clarity, so that realization could finally rest inside you. God has been building you layer by layer, strengthening you moment by moment, shaping you through fire, through stillness, through silence, and through stretching. And now you stand here, not who you used to be, but who you were always meant to be. Anointed One realization also carries a quiet but powerful peace. You stop wrestling with seasons. You stop fearing the unknown. You stop forcing what is not for you. Instead, you begin flowing with the rhythm of grace. You understand that what is meant for you will never miss you. You understand that timing is a divine instrument, not an enemy. You understand that elevation unfolds in cycles, and you are stepping into one right now. And perhaps the most beautiful part of realization is this: you begin to see yourself with heaven's eyes, not as inadequate, not as unworthy, not as someone who has to earn love or earn purpose. You see yourself as chosen, appointed, prepared, and backed by heaven. And once you see yourself this way, you will never see yourself the same way again. Chosen one. Let this realization settle into you with depth and certainty. This is not a moment. This is a spiritual rebirth. This is not a temporary high. This is permanent transformation. The elevation God has spoken over you is not coming. It has already arrived. You are living inside the prophecy that was once spoken over your life. Now breathe, stand tall, and step forward. Your realization is complete, and your elevation has truly begun. Chosen one. As you move deeper into this word, I want you to understand something that most people never grasp until much later in their journey. Elevation always begins by awakening your identity. Before God lifts you outwardly, He restores you inwardly. Before He expands your territory, He strengthens your foundation. Many believers think breakthrough starts with a miracle, a promotion, a financial release, or a sudden opportunity. But heaven's order has always been the same. Transformation begins within, in the quiet spaces where God rewrites how you see yourself, how you understand your purpose, and how you perceive the call on your life. Because if your identity isn't rooted in Him, every blessing will feel unstable, every opportunity will feel intimidating, and every attack will feel personal. But when you know who you are, when you truly know who He appointed you to be, elevation stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like alignment. Anointed One, you have been walking through a season where your identity has been tested from every angle. People misunderstood you because they couldn't recognize what heaven placed inside you. Circumstances tried to make you question your worth, your strengths, your purpose. Even your own thoughts have whispered lies telling you you're not enough, you're not ready, you're not capable. But these moments weren't meant to break you. They were meant to reveal you. Every time you chose faith over fear, every time you chose integrity in private, every time you refused to settle, heaven was reinforcing something inside you. You weren't just surviving, you were being shaped. You were being identified, not by your struggle, but by your calling. I've lived long enough to know that God will often let you walk through seasons where nothing around you affirms who you are. No applause, no validation, no recognition. It feels as though your efforts are invisible and your purpose is hidden under layers of ordinary days. But now I see why He allows it. When identity is built in silence, it becomes unshakable. When purpose is formed in private, it cannot be destroyed by public pressure. The strongest men and women of God are not those who were elevated quickly, but those who were refined quietly. You, chosen one, have been in that sacred refinement. God was carving out the insecurities that would have suffocated your calling. He was stripping away the fear that would have limited your influence. He was removing the wrong voices so you could finally hear His clearly. And now, because your identity has been strengthened, heaven is preparing to elevate you into places that require confidence, clarity, and authority. This next phase of your life is going to demand a version of you that cannot shrink to fit old spaces. You are being called into environments where your voice matters, where your presence carries weight, and where your obedience unlocks supernatural movement. That's why the enemy fought your identity so aggressively. He didn't fear your past. He feared your future. He feared the moment you would wake up and realize you were never ordinary. He feared the moment you would stop apologizing for your anointing. He feared the moment you would understand that you were chosen long before you ever took your first breath. Wonjan. This is why the attacks felt personal. This is why rejection cut so deeply. This is why certain doors didn't open when you thought they would. The enemy wasn't trying to stop the opportunity. He was trying to stop the identity behind the opportunity. He knew that once you embraced who God said you were, the elevation would become unstoppable. But here you are, still standing still, believing, still pressing. That alone is proof of who you are. People without calling do not endure this long. People without purpose do not survive these storms. People without anointing do not feel this level of resistance. There is something unique about the way God has carried you. Even in your lowest moments, something inside you refused to die. Even when your resources were thin, your faith kept breathing. Even when your mind felt overwhelmed, your spirit refused to surrender. That resilience wasn't natural. It was spiritual evidence of your assignment. You were never meant to crumble under pressure because pressure is the environment where oil is produced. And chosen one there is oil on your life. Oil forged in seasons no one saw. Oil that came from nights of crying, days of stretching, and moments where all you had was God. This is why heaven is elevating you now. You aren't rising because you pushed harder. You're rising because you surrendered deeper. God promotes those He can trust, and He can trust you now in ways He couldn't before. Your heart is steadier, your spirit is stronger, your discernment is sharper. You no longer move from impulse, you move from instruction. This is the posture heaven requires for those who will walk into supernatural transfer, financial elevation, and divine assignment. So, chosen one, hear this clearly. You are not who pain tried to make you. You are not who failure tried to define you. You are not the insecure version of yourself you carried years ago. You are becoming who you were always designed to be. The elevation you're stepping into isn't an upgrade. It's a revelation, a revealing of what has been forming inside you all along. And as this truth settles into your spirit, every lie that tried to distort your identity begins to lose its power. Let this be the moment you inhale deeply and recognize that heaven has not only chosen you, it has prepared you. The identity God strengthened in the dark is the same identity that will carry you into the light. And what comes next, Anointed One, will require every ounce of who you have become. Chosen One, as we step deeper into this divine unfolding heaven, begins to focus your attention on one of the most crucial dimensions of your elevation authority. Not earthly authority, not the authority that comes from titles, achievements, or recognition. This is spiritual authority, the kind that is forged in hidden places, shaped by obedience and sharpened by surrender. This authority cannot be handed to you by people. It can only be entrusted to you by God. And, Anointed One, everything you have walked through up until now has been preparing you to carry this authority with strength, humility, and clarity. For years you may have wondered why your life felt like a constant training ground. Why you faced battles others didn't understand. Why you endured pressures no one saw. Why you kept being placed in situations where you had to choose integrity over convenience, obedience over comfort, silence over retaliation. Those moments weren't coincidences, they were consecrations. Heaven was shaping a leader, a vessel, a warrior, and a servant all at once. Spiritual authority is not built through ease, it is carved through endurance. Anointed One authority in the kingdom never begins with being in charge. It begins with being submitted. And this is where many people misunderstand the process. They want the influence, but not the refinement. They want the breakthrough, but not the breaking. They want the crown, but not the crushing. But you, Chosen One, have been through the crushing, the stretching, the pruning. While others were chasing platforms, you were seeking God. While others were fighting for visibility, you were fighting for alignment. While others were running after recognition, you were learning the sound of God's whisper. And heaven has seen every moment of it. There were seasons when you prayed with no immediate answer, yet you stayed faithful. Seasons when people misjudged you, but you stayed humble. Seasons when things you deserved were given to others, yet you stayed grounded. Seasons when the enemy tried to tempt you into shortcuts, bitterness, or compromise, but you refused to surrender your integrity. All of these moments were proof of your readiness. Because true authority is not revealed in how you lead when you have influence. It is revealed in how you lead yourself when you have nothing. I remember walking through a season like that myself, a season where everything felt stripped away. My plans collapsed, my strength ran low, my prayers felt unanswered, and I felt invisible, hidden, overlooked. But it was in that very place that God began shaping my character. He taught me patience when I wanted acceleration. He taught me humility when I wanted validation. He taught me obedience when I wanted control. Looking back, I realized that without that season, I would not have had the backbone to carry what He entrusted to me later. And, Chosen One, the same is true for you. Spiritual authority grows silently. It is built when you make the right choice, even when no one is watching. It is built when you forgive without receiving an apology. It is built when you walk away from environments that dishonor your calling. It is built when you discipline your emotions instead of letting them lead you. It is built when you speak truth, even when your voice trembles. Heaven promotes character long before it promotes gifting. But Chosen One, hear me, authority attracts attention. When God elevates you, visibility increases, and with visibility comes scrutiny. Some will celebrate you. Some will misunderstand you. Some will misjudge you, and some will attempt to pull you back into old versions of yourself that no longer exist. This is why God strengthened your identity before releasing authority, because if your identity isn't rooted in truth, the noise of people will shake you. The higher you rise, the more voices you will hear. But spiritual authority requires you to recognize which voice is God's and which is a distraction. And do not be surprised when the enemy attempts to challenge your elevation. He can't stop what God is doing, so he tries to unsettle the one God is elevating. He whispers lies. He magnifies your insecurities. He brings up old wounds. He tries to provoke reactions. He wants to pull you into fear, confusion, or self-doubt. Why? Because the moment you accept your authority, you become unstoppable. The moment you recognize your spiritual weight, hell loses its grip. The moment you walk in your identity, heaven backs every step you take. Chosen one authority in God's kingdom is not about dominance, it is about responsibility. It is not about being above others, it is about being under God. It is not about power, it is about purity. Influence without integrity becomes manipulation. Authority without humility becomes destruction. Elevation without surrender becomes idolatry. This is why God has been pruning your heart, refining your motives, and purifying your intentions. He wanted to ensure that when He places authority on your life, your character will sustain it. You are stepping into a season where your presence will carry weight, where your words will shift atmospheres, where your prayers will break barriers, where your discernment will sharpen, where your decisions will have greater impact. This authority is not meant to inflate you, it is meant to equip you. You are not being elevated so you can dominate, but so you can illuminate, so you can serve at a higher level. So you can walk into places that need the light you carry. So you can uproot what the enemy planted and establish what heaven intends. And here is the truth many never learn. Spiritual authority is not loud. It does not need to announce itself. It does not need to prove itself. It is quiet, steady, grounded, and powerful. It is the kind of authority that makes darkness tremble because it recognizes who stands behind you. When you walk in God's authority, you do not enter rooms alone. Heaven walks with you. Chosen one, you have been trusted with much because you were faithful with little. You have been refined, you have been strengthened, you have been tested. And now, heaven is releasing authority over your life in a way you have not experienced before. Walk in it with humility. Walk in it with boldness. Walk in it with reverence. Your authority is not borrowed. It is inherited. It is spiritual. And it is time to carry it with the confidence of someone God Himself has chosen. Chosen one. Now that heaven has secured your identity and anchored your authority, the next dimension of your elevation begins to unfold your assignment. This is where everything you've endured, everything you've survived, and everything God has been cultivating in you starts to make sense. Assignment is not the task you do, it is the reason you were born. It is the spiritual blueprint written over your life before you ever took your first breath. And, anointed one, whether you feel ready or not, your assignment is being activated in this season. For so long you have carried things you couldn't explain, a restlessness that didn't match your circumstances, a hunger for something deeper, higher and holier than what the world offered. A sense that your life was meant for more than routine survival or going through the motions. You felt separated, even in a crowd set apart, even among friends different, even when you tried to blend in. That wasn't isolation, that was indication. Heaven has been signaling your assignment long before you had the language to describe it. I remember seasons in my own life where I kept asking God why my heart refused to settle for ordinary, why I felt pulled toward purpose even when nothing practical supported it. Why doors opened for others, but not for me, even when I worked just as hard. It took years for me to understand that God was not withholding opportunities. He was protecting the purity of my assignment. He was guarding my mantle until I was mature enough to carry it without distorting it. Chosen one, you have been in that same divine classroom. Your assignment is bigger than your current capacity, which is why God didn't reveal everything to you at once. If he'd shown you the full picture too early, you would have either run ahead of him or run away from him. Instead, he trained you slowly, quietly, intentionally. He used relationships, delays, battles, and even heartbreaks as teachers. He allowed the wrong people to exit your life because they could not go where your assignment is taking you. He withheld certain opportunities because they would have diluted your purpose. He closed doors you cried over because those doors would have destroyed the version of you he was trying to build. And now, finally, the timing is ripe. The season has shifted. Your assignment is calling your name with a clarity you cannot ignore anymore. This is why your spirit feels alert, why your dreams have intensified, why your discernment has sharpened, why your inner life feels like it's expanding. The assignment God is activating in you is not meant to make your life easier. It is meant to make your life meaningful. It will require faith that scares you, obedience that stretches you, and surrender that deepens you. Chosen one, your assignment is not about you. It is about the lives connected to you, the people you are called to impact, the environments you are called to shift, the chains you are called to break, the legacy you are called to rewrite. Your elevation is not just for your benefit, it is for the sake of everyone tied to your destiny. When you rise, others will rise because of you. When you break through, others will find freedom through your testimony. When you speak, others will find clarity through your obedience. This is why your pain was so deep, why your warfare was so intense, why your delays were so long. Assignments that shift generations require preparation that feels endless. God wasn't just preparing you for a moment. He was preparing you for movement. He was building depth, resilience, and spiritual stamina. He was teaching you to hear him in the dark, so you'll trust him in the light. He was strengthening your faith in hidden seasons, so you would stand confidently in public ones. And here is the truth: many never realize your assignment will not always feel comfortable. In fact, it will often feel bigger than your ability. That's how you know it's from God. You are not meant to fulfill it in your own strength. Heaven will supply what you lack. Divine connections will appear. Resources will flow. Wisdom will meet you at the moment you need it. The assignment is supernatural, and so is the provision. Anointed one, hear me clearly, you are not behind. You are right on heavenly schedule. The doors that are about to open will confirm everything your spirit has been sensing. Opportunities will align with your purpose, not distract you from it. People will enter your life who feel like destiny, not detours. The weight of your assignment will no longer feel overwhelming, it will feel inevitable. So breathe, stand tall, lift your head. Your assignment is awakening, and heaven is backing you in a way you have never experienced before. Walk forward with courage, chosen one. Heaven has already made the way, chosen one. As your assignment comes alive and heaven begins aligning every piece around you, there is another layer you must understand. Elevation does not arrive gently. It arrives suddenly, forcefully, undeniably. When God decides it is your time, events that once moved slowly begin to accelerate. Situations that felt stuck begin to shift. Doors that remained closed for years begin swinging open without effort. This is the season you are walking into now. Rapid movement, divine momentum, supernatural acceleration. But acceleration also brings a new kind of pressure. Not the pressure of struggle, but the pressure of capacity. When God promotes you, He expands you. He widens your influence, stretches your gifts, and places you in spaces you once prayed for, but now must steward wisely. Anointed One. This is where many lose their footing because they mistake elevation for comfort. Elevation is not comfort, it is responsibility, it is a mantle, it is weight. Not a crushing weight, but a holy weight that requires discipline, clarity, and spiritual sensitivity. I've experienced this shift myself. There were moments when God opened doors I had waited years for, and instead of feeling relaxed, I felt stretched. Not in a fearful way, but in a purposeful way. Suddenly I had to think differently, listen differently, prepare differently. That is what elevation does. It transforms your posture. It awakens you to the reality that where you are going requires more of you than where you've been. More prayer, more focus, more stewardship, more intentionality. Chosen One, you are stepping into that shift now. This is why God allowed your previous season to feel heavy. Not because He wanted you to suffer, but because He wanted to strengthen the version of you that would carry the next level. Your spirit needed endurance. Your faith needed roots. Your discernment needed sharpening. And now, everything you learned in struggle is about to serve you in elevation. Nothing was wasted. Every tear became training. Every disappointment became instruction. Every closed door became protection. You were being prepared for the acceleration you are now stepping into. But with acceleration comes visibility, and with visibility comes responsibility. As God elevates you, eyes will turn toward you, some with admiration, some with curiosity, and some with misunderstanding. Not everyone will celebrate your rise. Not everyone will understand the grace on your life. That's why God grounded your identity and refined your character long before He opened the path. You are stepping into a season where your presence will shift atmospheres, where your voice will carry weight, and where your decisions will impact people beyond your immediate circle. Chosen One. This is not the time to shrink back or question whether you belong in the spaces God is inviting you into. You belong because He sent you, you qualify because He called you, and you are ready because He prepared you. Elevation is not a reward, it is an assignment, a divine promotion for someone heaven trusts, and heaven trusts you. As acceleration begins, you must protect your spirit. Guard your atmosphere. Stay aligned with God's voice. Move with intention, not emotion. Do not rush ahead of grace, but also do not hold back when God says go. Your steps are being guided. Your path is being cleared. Your opportunities are being orchestrated. Everything unfolding around you carries divine fingerprints. Anointed One, embrace the momentum. Don't fear it. You are not being pushed, you are being carried. Let heaven lead you into the spaces your heart has longed for, but your mind couldn't fully imagine. You are stepping into a divine fast forward where things will align faster than you can explain. This is your moment. This is your season. This is your elevation in motion. Chosen One. As elevation accelerates in your life, there is another dimension that heaven is highlighting in this season's stewardship. Elevation is not simply about rising higher, it is about managing what God places in your hands with wisdom, clarity, and spiritual maturity. Many desire breakthrough, but few are prepared to handle what breakthrough requires. But you, anointed one, have been shaped differently. You have been prepared in the hidden places, trained through pressure, refined through delay, and strengthened through seasons of stretching. Now heaven is trusting you with more, not because you asked for more, but because you became someone who can steward more. Stewardship begins with awareness. When God begins elevating you, you can no longer live carelessly. You can no longer ignore the whispers of the Spirit or treat divine nudges casually. In this season, God will speak to you with greater precision. He may tell you to rest when your mind wants to push. He may tell you to wait when your emotions want to rush. He may tell you to release something you were once attached to or embrace something that feels unfamiliar. This is part of stewarding your elevation, recognizing that your steps must now follow instruction rather than impulse. I've lived through this shift in my own journey. There were moments when God opened a door and I almost walked through it too quickly because of excitement. But something in my spirit whispered, "Not yet." In those moments, obedience didn't feel dramatic. It felt quiet, almost invisible. But looking back, those small acts of obedience preserved opportunities I wasn't ready to steward. Sometimes God doesn't say no. He says, prepare. And preparation is stewardship. Preparation is protection. Preparation is honor. Chosen one, your elevation is not only spiritual, it is practical. Heaven will begin sending resources, connections, ideas, and opportunities. But you must discern what is from God and what is a distraction disguised as an open door. Every opportunity is not your assignment. Every invitation is not your calling. Every connection is not a covenant. Stewardship means learning to say yes with discernment and no with confidence. You cannot allow fear, guilt, or people-pleasing to guide your decisions in this season. Only obedience can. This next dimension of your life will also require emotional stewardship. You cannot afford to carry old wounds, old offenses, or old expectations into a new season. Elevation exposes what you haven't healed. That's not punishment, it's mercy. God will show you areas where forgiveness is needed, where letting go is necessary, where boundaries must be strengthened. Emotional clarity is essential because elevation attracts both divine assignments and unnecessary attachments. Protect your peace, chosen one. Not everyone is meant to sit at your table in this season. And let's talk about spiritual stewardship. In seasons of elevation, there is an increase in spiritual responsibility. Your prayers become sharper, your discernment becomes deeper, your sensitivity to the Holy Spirit becomes stronger. But this requires consistency. You cannot rise spiritually if you neglect the presence of the one who is elevating you. You must stay anchored, stay prayerful, stay aligned. Not out of fear, but out of reverence for the mantle you carry. Anointed one, financial stewardship will also matter in this season. When God increases you, He expects you to manage that increase with wisdom and generosity. The financial elevation coming your way is not random, it is connected to your assignment. Heaven does not release wealth where there is no purpose. You will need to make intentional decisions, invest wisely, sow strategically, and avoid wasteful patterns that used to drain you in past seasons. God is shifting you from survival thinking to abundant stewardship. This is not about luxury, it is about legacy. Chosen one. The weight of what you're stepping into may feel heavy, but it is a holy weight. And heaven trusts you with it. Stewardship is not about perfection, it is about obedience. It is about listening. It is about honoring what God gives you by treating it with care, intention, and gratitude. So take a breath, stand firm, move with intention, Heaven is not asking you to be flawless, only faithful. Your stewardship in this season will determine the size of the doors that open next. And chosen one. Those doors are bigger than you think. Chosen one, as the journey of elevation unfolds within you, another sacred layer begins to rise to the surface alignment. Not the shallow kind of alignment where everything looks neat on the outside, but the deep spiritual alignment, where every part of your life begins to come under the authority, rhythm, and timing of heaven. You are stepping into a season where God is not simply blessing your steps. He is directing them. He is aligning your inner world, your relationships, your opportunities, your decisions, and even your thoughts with His divine blueprint. And, Anointed One, this alignment is not accidental. It is intentional, supernatural, and perfectly timed. Alignment is what happens when heaven begins to bring order to every area that once felt scattered or confusing. Some of the frustration you've felt lately hasn't been warfare. It has been God realigning you, shifting you, repositioning you. You may have felt pulled away from certain people, disinterested in old habits, or dissatisfied with environments that once felt comfortable. That's because elevation requires separation. Alignment requires adjustment. And before God elevates you publicly, He adjusts you internally. There were moments in my own life when I didn't understand why relationships ended, why opportunities fell apart, or why doors I prayed for remained closed. I used to think something was wrong with me, or that I was being held back unfairly. But now I see it wasn't denial. It was divine redirection. God was aligning me with what was ahead, not what was behind. He was protecting my destiny from connections and environments that would have suffocated the growth He was preparing. Chosen one. He's been doing the same with you. In this season, alignment means clarity. It means knowing what is yours and what is not, what deserves your energy and what drains it, who is assigned to your journey and who is assigned to your past. God is going to make these distinctions sharper for you. People you once tolerated will no longer have access to the deepest parts of your heart. Situations you once endured will no longer have permission to weigh you down. Habits that once weakened you will no longer satisfy you. You are being aligned with divine purpose, and purpose demands precision. Chosen. One alignment also means timing. One of the greatest challenges of elevation is trusting God's timing, especially when your spirit feels ready before your season manifests. But hear me, when alignment comes, timing follows. You will begin to notice things falling into place, without forcing, without striving, without stress. Conversations will unfold naturally, connections will appear effortlessly, ideas will ignite at the right moment. What once felt delayed will suddenly accelerate because the time has finally caught up with the calling. But alignment isn't always comfortable. There will be moments when God calls you to step away from familiarity. There will be moments when He asks you to be still, when everything in you wants to move, or to move when everything around you looks uncertain. There will be moments when He asks you to trust Him more deeply than ever before. These aren't setbacks, they are alignments. God is tuning your spirit like an instrument, adjusting every inch of who you are so you can walk in harmony with His will. Anointed One, alignment also affects your environment. Pay attention to where God is nudging you. Pay attention to the places where your spirit feels alive and the places where it feels heavy. Pay attention to the conversations that strengthen your faith and the ones that weaken it. God is calling you into spaces that reflect your future, not your past. Spaces that cultivate growth, not confusion. Spaces that nurture your anointing, not drain it. You cannot blossom in soil that was never meant for your roots. This season requires intentional choices. You cannot afford to be casual with your calling. You cannot treat your elevation like a hobby. When God aligns you, He expects you to respond with discipline and awareness. That means guarding your mind, protecting your spirit, and being selective about what and who you allow into your atmosphere, not out of pride, but out of purpose. And hear this clearly. Chosen one alignment attracts provision. When your inner world comes into agreement with heaven, resources begin to flow. Ideas begin to sharpen. Opportunities begin to recognize you. People assigned to your next season begin to appear. What once felt like constant resistance becomes evidence of divine orchestration. You're not chasing what you need is being drawn to you. So step into this alignment with confidence. God is not just elevating you, He is positioning you. He is refining the path beneath your feet. He's ensuring that everything in your life matches what He is releasing in your spirit. Walk carefully, walk boldly, walk prayerfully. This is not just a shift, it is a divine realignment. And chosen one, it is preparing you for what comes next. Chosen one. As you enter this next dimension of your elevation, heaven is leading you into one of the most transformative stages of your journey: clarity. Not the kind of clarity that simply helps you make a decision or understand a moment, but the kind of deep spiritual clarity that reshapes your entire inner world. This clarity is a divine unveiling, the moment where God removes the fog, silences the noise, and reveals what has been hidden beneath layers of confusion, fear, and distraction. This is the clarity that comes after seasons of pruning, stretching, and realignment. And, anointed one, you are stepping into it now. For a long time, your life may have felt like a puzzle with missing pieces. Some days you sensed direction. On others, everything felt uncertain. You questioned your path, your timing, and even your purpose. You wondered why certain relationships crumbled, why certain opportunities dissolved, and why certain prayers remained unanswered. You felt tension in your spirit, a pull towards something more, something deeper, but you could not articulate it. That feeling wasn't failure, it was transition. It was the early sign that heaven was preparing to open your eyes. Clarity rarely begins with revelation. It begins with discomfort. It begins when God starts removing what no longer aligns with your destiny. Old friendships suddenly feel heavy. Old environments no longer feel safe. Old desires no longer excite you. You feel disconnected from things that once defined you. This disconnection is not a sign that you are lost. It is a sign that you are being found. The reason your spirit felt restless was because heaven was shifting your identity into alignment with your assignment. Chosen one clarity is coming now because you are finally ready to perceive what God has been trying to show you. You were not ready before, not because you were unworthy, but because your vision was still shaped by old wounds, old expectations, and old identities. God had to heal areas you didn't know were broken. He had to expose lies you didn't realize you believed. He had to stretch your capacity so your perception could match your calling. Only then could He reveal what was waiting. I've experienced this kind of clarity before, and it didn't arrive in a dramatic moment. It arrived quietly. It came after seasons of confusion where I felt like I had no direction left. Then suddenly, almost without warning, things began to make sense. Conversations aligned, ideas sharpened, discernment increased. It was as if the fog lifted in a single breath. And I realized that God had been guiding me all along, even when I couldn't see where I was going. Anointed one, that is what is happening in your spirit now. Clarity is beginning to rise within you like a dawn breaking after a long night. You will start understanding why God removed certain people, why he closed certain doors, why he pushed you into seasons of solitude, why he allowed delays that frustrated you. Every piece is falling into place, and what once felt chaotic is revealing itself as divine orchestration. This level of clarity does not just help you see, it helps you separate. When God sharpens your spiritual perception, you begin recognizing what is truly aligned with your destiny and what is not. You stop giving energy to people who drain you. You stop entertaining conversations that pull you backward. You stop forcing relationships that God never assigned to you. You stop explaining yourself to people who cannot comprehend your calling. This is not you becoming cold. This is you becoming clear. With clarity, your decisions become deliberate. Your boundaries become stronger. Your standards become higher. You begin to understand that your peace is not a suggestion, it is a requirement. That your calling is not optional, it is divine. That your spirit is not fragile, it is precious, and you begin guarding it accordingly. Clarity will also reveal the hidden motives around you. You will begin noticing who celebrates you versus who tolerates you, who genuinely supports you versus who only wants access, who is aligned with your future versus who is attached to your past. When clarity comes, masks fall in others, and even within yourself. This exposure is not meant to hurt you. It is meant to free you. Chosen. One clarity is not only external, it is internal. You will begin understanding yourself on a deeper level. Why your heart feels drawn to certain things, why you outgrew old patterns so quickly, why your sensitivity increased, why your spirit reacts strongly to certain environments. The why becomes clear. Your emotional world becomes steadier. Your mind becomes quieter. Your intuition becomes sharper. Decisions that once took weeks will now take minutes, because you no longer move in confusion, you move in alignment. This clarity is also prophetic. You will begin sensing things before they happen, feeling shifts before they manifest, recognizing spiritual activity before it's visible. God will give you dreams, impressions, and insights that confirm your next steps. You will walk with a confidence that does not come from knowledge, but from revelation. Heaven is tuning your spiritual senses so you can navigate elevation without losing yourself. But hear me, clarity also requires courage, because once you see truth, you cannot unsee it. Clarity will challenge you to walk away from what is familiar but no longer fruitful. It will ask you to take steps that stretch your faith. It will lead you to doors that require trust over comfort, and it will remove the excuses that kept you stagnant. Anointed One clarity is heaven's way of preparing you for manifestation. God reveals before He releases. He aligns before He accelerates. And your clarity is the evidence that your elevation is not coming, it is already unfolding. You are stepping into a version of yourself that is anchored, grounded, awakened. Your mind is aligning with your purpose. Your spirit is aligning with your assignment. Your steps are aligning with the hand of God. And from this clarity will flow confidence, not arrogance, but holy assurance. You will begin moving with the steadiness of someone who knows heaven is backing every step. Chosen One, embrace this clarity. Let it shape you. Let it cleanse you. Let it guide you. Heaven has removed the fog so you can finally see what has been waiting for you all along. You are no longer walking in confusion, you are walking in revelation, and revelation always leads to elevation. Chosen One, as you step into this final movement of your elevation, heaven is drawing you into a dimension that many talk about, but few ever truly enter manifestation. Not the shallow kind defined by quick results or temporary highs, but the deep spiritual manifestation that takes root in your identity, expands through your authority, aligns with your assignment, and flows through your clarity. This is the moment when everything God has whispered, confirmed, repeated, and carved into your spirit begins to take shape before your eyes. This is the season where what was invisible becomes undeniable. For so long you carried promises that felt distant. You walked through seasons of preparation that felt unending. You prayed prayers that seemed to echo into silence. You held on to prophetic words even when circumstances looked opposite. You fought battles that left you questioning if breakthrough would ever come. And yet, chosen one, you are still here, stronger, wiser, more aligned, more surrendered. That alone is evidence that manifestation is closer than you think. You have not been wandering, you have been maturing. Manifestation is not about things appearing suddenly out of nowhere. It is about the internal work finally matching the external season. It is when your heart is ready for what your spirit has long carried. It is when God says, "Now you can handle what I always intended to give you." Elevation is not just an act of God. It is the unveiling of what He planted inside you long ago. And anointed one, you have reached the moment where this unveiling begins. If you look back with honesty, you will see that nothing you endured was wasted. Every disappointment built resilience. Every delay cultivated patience. Every detour revealed something about your character. Every loss made room for something better. Every silent season sharpened your discernment. And every hidden moment strengthened your intimacy with God. Manifestation comes only after transformation, and transformation is exactly what God has been doing in you. I've walked through this threshold myself, the moment where it felt like what I'd been carrying inside for years suddenly aligned with the external world. It didn't happen in an instant. It happened through perspective shifts, divine nudges, unexpected connections, and courageous decisions I didn't feel ready for, but stepped into anyway. Manifestation doesn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes it looks like alignment. Sometimes it looks like opportunity. Sometimes it looks like a door you never imagined opening. Sometimes it looks like the peace that tells you the waiting is over and the walking has begun. Chosen. One manifestation also brings responsibility. When the promise becomes reality, you must hold it with wisdom. You must cultivate what God gives you. You must protect what heaven trusts you with. Too many people pray for elevation but shrink when the weight of manifestation arrives. But you have been prepared differently. You have been trained. You have been purified. You have been stretched. You have been humbled. Heaven can trust you now with what it could not entrust to you before. Manifestation requires maturity. It requires courage. It requires consistency. It requires the willingness to let go of who you were so you can fully embrace who you are becoming. You cannot carry old habits into new seasons. You cannot bring old mindsets into divine assignments. You cannot allow fear, insecurity, or doubt to speak louder than purpose. God will not manifest something in your life that you will allow fear to choke. But you, chosen one, are no longer operating from fear, you are operating from identity. And with manifestation comes movement. Expect acceleration, expect alignment, expect confirmation, expect sudden orchestration. The same God who has been preparing you in private is about to promote you in public, not for ego, but for purpose, not for status, but for assignment. Not so people notice you, but so people notice Him through you. Your elevation is not personal, it is purposeful. You are being positioned to shift atmospheres, influence environments, and carry light into places darkened by doubt, fear, and confusion. Chosen one. The manifestation you are stepping into will surprise you. It will stretch you. It will overwhelm you with gratitude. It will remind you that God never forgot you, never ignored you, never abandoned you. Every moment you thought was wasted was actually preparation. Every prayer you thought went unanswered was being stored. Every tear was watering the seeds of your destiny. Now the fruit is ready. Manifestation is not magic, it is maturity meeting divine timing, and that timing is now. As heaven unveils what has been hidden, walk carefully but confidently. Trust the shifts, embrace the unfamiliar, respond to the opportunities. Do not question whether you are ready. The evidence that you are ready is the fact that it is happening. Chosen one manifestation has already begun within you. Now it is about to unfold around you. Step into it, honor it, steward it. This is not the beginning. This is the unveiling. Your elevation is not coming. Your elevation is here. Chosen one, as this word settles into your spirit, pause and recognize the holiness of this moment. Heaven has not only spoken over you today, it has shifted something within you. You are standing in your Kairos time, the exact moment God appointed for your elevation, your release, and your breakthrough. What has been delayed is now accelerating. What has been hidden is now being revealed. What has been forming in silence is about to manifest in fullness. Anointed one, walk forward, knowing that the supernatural transfer has already begun. The atmosphere around you has changed. Favor is aligning, resources are moving, doors are responding to your obedience. You are not stepping into a new season, you are stepping into your ordained season. Heaven has already gone before you, and grace is now carrying you into the places you once only dreamed about. As you leave this moment, carry these truths in your heart. You are chosen, you are prepared, you are protected, and you are positioned for divine elevation. Do not shrink back. Do not second guess. Do not apologize for the anointing on your life. Walk with confidence, with humility, and with an expectant spirit. What God has started today will continue unfolding in the days ahead. If this word stirred something in you, chosen one, let your agreement echo in the comments. Share this message with someone who needs to be reminded that God has not forgotten them. And stay connected, because heaven is not finished speaking. Go in faith. Go in boldness. Go in reverence. Your elevation has begun, now walk in it.